Hello, and
Hello.
welcome to another podcast.
Woo.
ChatGBD. For us, it's March 25. For the listeners, it could be anything. It's exciting. It's the end of the quarter, and we'll do another one about the quarter. We're just back from GDC, which was very exciting. We'll talk about it. But first, introductions. We are today with
Sharon. I'm the growth management team lead.
And my name is Guy. I'm EVP at Anzu, the leading in game advertising or intrinsic ads, specifically platform out there. We're going to talk about intrinsic ads today. We're going to cover sort of the key elements of how anybody can make more revenues and overall more with their intrinsic ads. But before that, let's talk about the couple of weeks we were out and about. Um, I know it. We had new games onboarding with us, right?
Yes, correct.
Which one? Anything
Um,
exciting? Anything that I wasn't aware
Everything
of?
is exciting. So we had mini basketball
Right.
from Mini Clip, and we have the Super League hero
Right.
from Land Studios. Yep.
And just recently,
And
WWE Super
WWE.
Super Card with 2K. Those are tentpole games, but also amazing player based, amazing audiences,
Correct.
and great diversity there. We'll talk about that, different game styles and how, in terms of strategy, how intrinsic ads was introduced within those games.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then GDC. How more
How was
exciting
GDC?
how more exciting can you get? So I know that the GDC, a lot of people wrote that it was kind of slower than last year, and I think the market overall is going through some kind of continued shakeup, and overall less people. For ad monetization, it's an excellent time to shine, generating more revenues, but obviously less people in each team means that every studio and every publisher really needs to prioritize what they're doing these days. Do you feel that when you're speaking day to day with the admons out there?
Definitely, we hear that from several publishers. Um, but it's honestly, it's not something that we really feel that affecting on like the admins are still managed to push those initiatives.
Right.
So
Internally.
yeah, exactly. So it's not something that we really feel on our side, but we do hear it from publishers.
Yeah. We're on the good side. We are trying to generate revenues for them. So we're coming in with good news rather than bad news. It's not nice to have. And it's meaningful. 5 to 55% of their revenues, depending, are coming with intrinsic ads. So there you go. Um, Speaking of, still, I see the market at the place where there's a lot of question mark on the very basic level of the prerequisites. How do I look at intrinsic ads? How do I add them to the game? Um, and there's those do's and don'ts. Some of them we covered, but in general, when a game is introduced and there's a sort of a bigger discussion, what's the best way or what are the key parameters to look at? What's your advice? What are the 3 4 main things you advise a game director
Yeah.
to look at?
So when we talk about in-game advertising, it's not just like put those placements in the game and that's all. We want to make those ads meaningful, measurable, effective. So we're looking at a few KPIs. First of all, exposure rate. Now, how we measure exposure rate in Anzu is valid users divided by the total DAO. What are valid users? Valid users are users that engaged with our placement at least once
And by engaged, you mean just viewed a place.
View the placement.
Right.
Exactly. So we are aiming to have at least above 80% exposure rate. And we see that I can say 90% of our environment has these metrics above 80%. So we're
Right.
good at that.
I'm used, and I just want to stop there because I'm used for everybody that's playing the game to see an ad because usually it's in a menu or maybe it's in a banner, maybe it's an interstitial. So if I played one level, I would see an ad. But with intrinsic ads, it's a bit different, right? The ads could hide somewhere or could be in a level that is played later on. How can I only 80%, let's say, of the players seeing ads? What?
Yeah.
Give me
So
a few examples.
okay. So if we have, for example, a placement that is pre-game, it's on the loading screen or on the menu, then we expect to have 100% exposure because all players are eventually get to this placement. But if we don't have this kind of placement, for example, it's a cooking game, and we are integrated only on the first 10 maps.
All right.
And so the players that play on the other maps don't see our ads.
Okay.
So then we don't get to all
Right.
the users.
Right. Okay. So we want about 80% of the players and obviously 100% of the players to see our ads, but we understand it's very hard to get to 100 because some players are already playing the game for a while. They're not going to see level one and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're mapping that, and what else? What's the next?
Okay. And then we have GTR.
Okay.
GTR basically represents
I know the car, but yes.
the billable impressions divided by total impressions, meaning that how many ads out of those that played eventually generated into an impression.
So effectiveness, in a way, the effectiveness of the placement.
Exactly. So in this case, we aim to be above 70%.
Okay. So 70%, meaning that 70% of the chances or the situation where a campaign was running in the placement actually generated a billable impression.
Exactly.
Right. Again, not a clear thing because you're talking about, angles and sizes and everything is very flexible in terms of how it looks on screen.
Correct.
All right.
And then we also want to have shrink to fit. Shrink to fit basically lets you place any ratio in any placement, meaning that the placement basically changed based on the next media ratio. So, for example, if we have a 1.55 a creative now, then later we have a 6.4
All right.
creative, it will change automatically. So this is allow us basically to serve any ads that coming. Yes, so this is amazing. And if not that, we would want to have as many ad aspect ratio as we can get
To cover as many
Cover
situation.
Exactly.
And we're not changing vertical to horizontal and vice versa, but there's sort of a threshold limitation on what we are allowing to shrink into the right ratio from one to another.
Exactly.
All right. And then one more thing that I remember was a big thing was having some of these placement play what's called dynamic ads, meaning that they would refresh. It wouldn't be just the same ad.
Yeah.
Every few seconds or so, the campaign shown would be different, would change.
Yep. So we have two setups. We have dynamic and we have static. Static, it means that basically the publisher controls the refresh rate from his side. So, for example, he can, let's say, have like refresh rate every play or each match or whatever. And dynamic means that we control it on our side and it basically refresh every between 5 to 10 seconds.
All right. So we want to make sure placement are being seen by all players, that they cover the most lucrative media, basically video, images, that it's dynamic, meaning that they're really able to show more than one campaign per session, and they're effective, right? The GTR KPI, that they are able to generate billable impressions, um, and not being too far away or just situated in a place that doesn't generate impression. They could be on
Correct.
screen, they could cover all ratios, they could show videos and be dynamic, but they still wouldn't generate billable impressions because they're not big enough, one of the elements. So
Correct.
all of that, and I know you've been working with our marketing team to generate guidelines for that. Can you tell more about that?
Yeah. So we have a clear guidance. It's very short. It basically summarize everything that we've talked now. Um, and we see that once publisher really listen and do as we deliver them on the placement strategy, they get to amazing results. For example, lately, like a month ago, we have a really good integration in one of the games where the ImpDAO is 100, which is amazing. Like
Meaning that a player can is not is generating 100
100.
impression per day.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
And basically, this publisher really followed the placement strategy as is, as we
Can you share the genre? Like,
it's a sports game.
sports game. All right.
Sports game. They have all the sizes. They have dynamic. We are placed in all of the exposed areas, in all the fields, and we see the results. The results are amazing.
You're awesome.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yep.
It's great. And the guidelines are per genre and style. Like, I know that 2D games are now growing very fast.
Right.
There are businesses with us.
Right.
So it's not only 3D games, it's not only sports game. It could be puzzles. Yeah.
Puzzles, wording, whatever.
Yeah.
We can work on all of them.
That's exciting. And a lot of these guidelines are specifics. So if it would be a racing game, we're taking to
We have
account,
racing, we
the
have
camera
sports.
movement.
Yeah, we have sports, we have racing, we have runner, we have everything, really. And we also doing placement strategy that's is specific for each game
Right.
as request.
It's pretty great. So the game has followed up, crazy with 100 impressions per player a day, or maybe less, but that's totally fine. And then in your role, what you do is every day you go and you and your team, right, turn up your dashboards, and you look at the sort of the health, right, of each game. What are the parameters you look at? You come in, you get your coffee or whatever other poison. Um, what are the first things you look at in our dashboard?
So we're looking at revenue.
Right.
We are looking at app unique users and valid users. We want to see that nothing has changed. Maybe we have some cases that publisher have releases and in accidentally removing some placement or stuff like that. So we want to make sure that there is no change in that. Um, we are looking at impression per valid users. And these are the main metrics that we look, but we also obviously look all the time on all of the other metrics that we just mentioned.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if you see a sort of a drop in one of the KPI, definitely, let's say there's an unexpected drop in revenue that wasn't supposed to be there because of, let's say, seasonality. You look at the exposure rate, and then you look at the impression per user. Those are the two sort of key guidelines that would then allow you to maybe, if there is an issue, dive per placement. Are you looking at the per placement level or just overall?
Yes, we also look at per placement. We have like on our dashboard, we have so many metrics, so we can dive in as much as we want. Um, yeah, so we're honestly looking at all of these metrics that we've just mentioned. We're talking with the other departments to see like we're doing everything on our side first to see that it's not something on our side. Um, and then we approach the publisher.
Yeah. And I know it's exciting. I mean, you manage hundreds of games, so
Right.
it's you and your team, right? There's a lot to look at, and there's a lot to optimize. That said, I've seen that your team now is started to use AI to sort of get some insights out of data more than the basic. You can kind of throw in graphs, you can throw in numbers.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah. Like we are, as you said, like we're just like uploading a graph and then you get like a full report of insights, which is pretty amazing.
Right. But you still, I mean, we're still at the stage where we need
To learn how to work with
yeah,
AI.
you, you,
Yeah.
you add your own, you edit. Some of the insights may be interesting, but not specifically correct with each case. So, our job safety is still there
Yeah.
when it comes to AI, but, you never know. It wasn't there a year ago, right? So
Right.
imagine what will happen in a year. Um, no, it's pretty exciting tool. And going back to GDC, a lot of what I've seen is with generative AI and from assets. By the way, including advertising and game assets to full game creation, and even kind of advisors. So AI is not working anymore per se. It's sitting next to you and advises you how to change things.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, which was one sample that I found particularly funny. They become advisors now.
Crazy.
Yeah. They're eventually they'll be the boss of us all.
Honestly, I can't imagine like what will be like in 5 years from now.
It's so fast paced that it's very hard to imagine. I was just reading Noah Harari latest book, and he's really talking about that, going back to science fiction book like Asimov, where you need to create the basic rules, otherwise it just goes berserk. Right? It could, without proper guidance and
Right.
proper objectives, crazy things can happen. Worthwhile to read. I think it's called Nexus, but I'm not sure. Um, well, with AI, GDC, we're entering Q2. For some of the public companies, it's Q1, so we know it's busy time for everyone. I'm really excited to see how this grows. But thank you again. Those are the basic key points. Just repeating the sort of the effectiveness of placement, making sure that they are being seen by all players, that they cover the medias, the ratios, and at the end of the day, looking at the fact that players do generate as many impressions as reasonable for each game without cannibalizing other revenue sources and KPIs.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Sharon, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to us. If you listen to us on any one of the channels, please click on subscribes, follow us, YouTube, check our self-service integration program. And we look forward to meet you again very soon. Next time is probably with Maor.
Yeah.
Now his new name, by the way, is Mo. His Starbucks name is Mo. Um, and talk more about GDC and what's ahead. Thank you very much.